This is our D&D Backstory Generator application. It uses the power of GPT to take your basic character idea and provide you with a detailed backstory that you can use as inspiration when role-playing your character during your next D&D session. For this demo, the first user we'll go through an example of is for a first-time D&D player that has never made a character before. Initially, you're greeted with this landing page where for a D&D Backstory Generator, generate a custom character backstory, get started below. So I'm going to go ahead and start entering a name. So as a first-time D&D player, I might do something pretty basic. So let's do John Johnson. And nickname, I don't know, it's Dungeons & Dragons, so the Dragon. So as a first-time D&D player, I might not know much about the races that are available, and this section is to choose a race. So I'm going to very likely read through all of the different examples or descriptions here for each of the different races and maybe take a look at the little icon as some inspiration for what I might want my character to be. So John Johnson, kind of maybe interested in being a dwarf, but after reading the half-elf description, it seems a lot more like how a first-time D&D player might want to play their character. So I'm going to choose half-elf. And as we can see, it's selected, so they know that their option has been chosen, and we'll go on to the next step. Again, as a first-time D&D player, I'm not going to know much about the different classes that are available, so I'll go through and read most of the descriptions so that I can get an idea of what might be interesting. So as a half-elf, after reading the description, it has a lot to do with magic, so I'll probably choose one of the magic classes. So after reading that, or the descriptions, sorcerer sounds kind of interesting, so they're magic users where you have a magical birthright. That sounds kind of cool. So again, I click it and it appears to be selected, so I'll go ahead and move on to the next step. And now, again, as a first-time D&D player, probably haven't put stats together before, so I see that the stats are initially randomized and might click through and see what it tells me about the different stat. But in the end, I'm probably just going to use randomize because I don't really know how to put this together. And I probably wouldn't know how to, or what to put in each one anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and use randomize and get an idea of what each of the different abilities are. And then I'll move on to the next step. Now for backstory selection, as a first-time D&D player, I'm going to want as much information about the character as possible so that I don't have to figure it out on my own. So looks like for character description, family and home, and personal story, I'm going to want to include all of those in my backstory. So I'm going to keep all those checked, and let's go. All right, and as a first-time player, I'm probably going to read through all these in a lot of detail and take a look. So initially I see character appearance and abilities. I see that I can choose to include or not include this portion into my backstory. So I'm going to go ahead as a first-time player. I want as much information as possible, so I'm going to leave it all in. I might not like how the abilities are down here, so I see that there's an option to regenerate text, so let me try that out. Regenerating prompt, please wait. So I'll wait for that to happen. And cool, it went ahead and regenerated for me. So I kind of like how that sounds, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next step. Now I'll move on to my final step, and this is what I would want as a new D&D player. I have a reference to everything that I input. I've got my name with my nickname, my class and race up at the top, all the stats that I had put in, so I would transfer that to my character sheet, and then my description that I have for all the sections that I decided to include. So the other user type might be a very experienced D&D player that has made many characters in the past. So they might go through this relatively quickly, and they would very likely want to exclude portions of the backstory that they know they don't want. All right, and the last user that I'm going to go through an example of is a dungeon master who is planning to create a NPC for their upcoming D&D game. As a DM, I would just be looking for the basic character descriptions. And that is the D&D Backstory Generator application.